Hello, everyone. Waiting for people to come in. This is a chance for you guys to ask any questions. So right now I'm just pulling on collective energy, but if you have a question, feel free to ask it, type it in the chat, and get a reading. They're quick readings, quick answers. Donations are not required, but they are accepted. You know, the interesting thing about Two of Pentacles and Knight of Swords is when you have that kind of energy together, it's really unexpected energy. This is like the energy of like pandemics, war, things like that. And that's kind of what's shadowing everything. But when you look deeper into each of these, it's not indicating that that's necessarily what's happening. It's more so indicating that that's what's being eradicated. Two towers there. We are in the age of Aquarius, so you know. Again, this live is dedicated to answering questions for whoever pops on. So if you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat, get an answer. Hello, Miss C. Did you have a question for me that I can answer? Of course. What's your question? Thanks for adding that. I was just going to ask if you knew his name. Let's go ahead and look at him, and I'll try to find his energy for you, but we'll look at the tarot first. Let's see. Who's this guy that Miss C met at work? Show me. Let's look at the energy from him towards you first. So if we're looking at his energy towards you, just with the tarot here, I would definitely say that I think even if he's making gestures at you, I don't think that he would try to advance anything or push it forward. I think he kind of thinks that he's more successful when it comes to like interactions when he doesn't give it all. So I think that he definitely likes to show interest. I think that he actually has a lot of like he just might be a flirtatious kind of person, you know. He might just enjoy talking to the women that he sees, that he enjoys, that he likes, he's attracted to, but it's like he doesn't fully ever advance it in a way where it's like, okay, let's talk again, let's have a date, let's, you know, get to know each other more. But I think that he kind of just likes to be charming and flirtatious. If I kind of psychically look at it, I do feel like you might run into him again, but I don't feel like it would be on purpose. Like I don't know that he would actively seek you out or like come back just to make sure that he gets to see you again. I feel like we might run into him more on like an accidental basis. So if you work in like a service industry or something like that, it's almost like he'll pop back in and you'll run into him again. But I think that it's going to be this very like charming and fun kind of energy from him. I do think that I kind of get a little bit of energy of him being involved somewhere. And I feel like it's almost like the energy of someone who's involved with someone else, but they don't really want to be with someone with that person. So what they end up doing is kind of like fulfilling themselves by being in that flirtatious energy with other people, but they never fully would like go as far as cheating on that person or like actually doing anything to hurt them. But it's almost like just the temptation and playing with that boundary, with that line, kind of makes everything fine and okay, where they can tolerate being in a relationship or connected to someone that they really don't want to be. That's kind of how it feels. Does that make sense how I'm explaining that? Okay, perfect. Um, any other follow-up questions with that? Yeah, absolutely. I hope that helped. I will say I do like his energy. I don't think he's got bad energy at all. Um, I keep seeing in my mind like someone that like when they're talking to you, there's very much like a very good like interest. It feels like they're very interested. It feels like they're very engaged. So I like his energy, and it does feel like when he was having that conversation or that interaction with you, that there was like genuine interest and attraction. So it wasn't just for fun. Um, but I think that yeah, he does seem like a good person, not malicious in any way. But I think that he genuinely enjoyed whatever interaction or conversation you guys had. So I hope that helps. Got about 15 more minutes left. And since you're the only one here right now, Miss C, feel free to ask away if you have other questions, even outside of the guy. You just got lucky. You might end up having like your own little personal reading session here. I'm just going to pull some time cards because I grabbed these and wanted to pull them. So let me know if one of these times resonates for you. We have a few weeks. In March. And in August. And on the bottom, try later. See, so a few weeks could indicate that some action, something's going to be happening, a message, some communication coming through. Definitely communication that it feels positive. It feels like it could help us move forward or make a decision about something. It's like good, positive, but unexpected news is how that feels. For anyone that just came in, if you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat. Donations are not required for this, but they are accepted. Let's see, for the in March one, we might have had a disagreement or like some conflict, some words said, or at least even if it wasn't direct communication, we might have been really upset with someone, even if we just kept it to ourselves. But we felt that like anger, that conflict within our mind that could have happened in March. So it could very well be that whatever happened in March is now circling back around and it's coming in and it's going to be giving like a communication. So if this was someone that we, fell out with, disagreed with, moved away from, it's like that person might resurface or you might find out good news about that person or that situation here. When we look at August, we have Emperor, which that definitely kept coming out on the bottom. Like I seen it show on the bottom, so came out. I think in August might be an opportunity for this to move forward in a more stable way, but I think there's someone wanting to show up or like come in and be a very influential, impactful person in your life. So if this person maybe like moved away, stopped talking, whatever it is, we kind of feel good because we get like a sudden message or communication from them. And then in August, I do feel like there's might be more of like a physical meeting rather than like a conversation over the phone or FaceTime. So you might have plans to see this person in August, or they might show back up in August, something like that. And with try later, hi, it is not too late. I'm going to stay on for 30 minutes. So we got about another 10 minutes. So Britt, if you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat box and we will look at an answer for you. Melvin Simon, your biological father. Let me pull some tarot on it, and then I'll also let you know what I get just through like psychic messages. The tarot is usually really good about validating and confirming it. When I look at the energy, I definitely can see the energy where I think that we believe that he is, and I also think that he might believe that he is, but for some reason, when I'm looking at the energy, it feels like I can see the emotion, the belief, the thought, but I don't know that it's actually true. I think it's more of the belief that it is than it actually is like a factual thing that it is. Because it's like I don't think that he actually is. When I'm looking at the energy, I don't think that he is. Even if he's deceased, when he was living, he might have thought or assumed or believed, or that belief is just coming from you. But I can definitely see a belief, but I don't think that he actually is, though. Let me just pull a couple cards on Melvin really quick. Are you thinking that he might be your father because of like finding out about him and your mom having some kind of like quick fling or interaction or something like that? Because that's kind of what tarot shows, is that it wasn't necessarily like a relationship, but it feels like something more passionate, unexpected between him and his brother. If I look at John, I'm going to say energetically, I get more with John than I do with Melvin. I feel like even your mom might believe that it's Melvin rather than John, but I feel like I can see more of an energetic connection. It's Herbert. Is his brother's name John or Herbert? I don't want to like confuse you with what energy I'm looking at. If his brother's name is Herbert, there's more of an energetic connection there. Who's John? His brother is Herbert. John is another man that could be. Okay, so I'm going to say no to Melvin. I'm going to say yes to John, which means it's a no for Herbert. So whoever John is, that's where I'm seeing the energetic connection to. Does John drink? And Herbert still... Yeah, I don't... That's why I was asking about like if he drinks, because even though I'm looking at the energy and I feel more Herbert is a drinker. Interesting. It very well could just be Herbert. Because when I was looking at John the first time, I thought that's what the brother's name was John. It could be Herbert, because that's what I'm getting is like when I look at the energy of like, well, who is your dad? And I'm just looking at it without trying to attach a name to it. I definitely get the feeling of like someone drinking, like not incoherently, but definitely like more than they probably should. So if Herbert's the drinker, that might be the indicator that it's Herbert. But even with Herbert, he feels very like I'll say with his energy, it's almost like he wouldn't reject or deny or like even accept about him possibly being your father, but it feels more like he just kind of like would avoid it or ignore it. Like of Pacers and Simon Malls, if that helps. Yes, I'm told he is the owner of the Pacers inside. And that's Herbert. I feel like if Herbert's the drinker and Herbert's the one, I feel like he tries to avoid the subject or topic. Like, I don't think that he would openly want to figure that out and openly want to discuss it or like actually prove it. I think that he just kind of like, he feels detached. He feels like not just detached in regards to you, just detached in general, to like things that he should be acknowledging or addressing in life. Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. So that's probably why he just kind of avoids it, because it's almost like I don't see him wanting to be like, okay, yes, this happened, but at the same time, I don't feel like he wants it. Like he just feels very detached from all of it. Like he doesn't want to explore it. He doesn't outright reject or deny it, but he definitely doesn't outright accept it and claim it. So that makes sense. So he might still be just in that energy where, because of the situation at the time, it's kind of like, I don't want nothing to do with this. You know, I'm just going to avoid it and pretend like it never happened. So I hope that helps. But I do think, I think it's Herbert. And I'm sorry to have confused the name with Herbert and John, but definitely someone that's a drinker, definitely someone that's kind of like avoiding the whole situation. So it definitely sounds like it would be Herbert. So I think he might be the biological father. For anyone else that's in here, feel free to type out a question. We got roughly like 4 or 5 minutes left. So if you have a question, donations are not required. They are accepted. But I'll give you a quick tarot reading or like a psychic message that I get from whatever your question is. And Britt, thanks so much for asking. Got just a few more minutes. So if you have a question, feel free to type it out, get you an answer before we are done with this stream and hop off. Okay, let's look at that. Haven't found one who I can trust. Show me Missy with friends. Again, we'll look at the tarot, but I'll also look at just the energy of that. I just want to tap into like what kind of friends you have been having or like interactions you have been having first, so I can kind of understand maybe why we're not finding what we're looking for. Show me Missy and her friends. So what's coming in is, I feel like, Missy, it's not a question of if you'll ever find a best friend. I definitely think that you can and you will find a best friend. I think what's happening here is sometimes we do self-fulfilling prophecies, and this happens really unintentionally, because obviously we wouldn't want to do that to ourselves, and like create like a negative or bad energy. I think that what it is when we start to have like an outlook of, and usually this is created through past experiences, of being betrayed, of being let down, backstabbed. There is there, but it's not, I don't want to label it and just cliche it as trust issues. I want to explain what it is so you can actually heal it. What happens is when you have all of these things happen and your trust is really taken for granted and it's betrayed by multiple people or multiple times or even just one situation, what we do is we hold that and we almost become like cautious and fearful that it's going to happen again. So even if we stay open and we're receptive and ready to take someone into our lives, ready to like trust again, because it doesn't mean you're necessarily so guarded and blocked that you avoid all opportunity for that. But it's like, hey, I want to trust again and I want to like try and have friends again. But because you're holding that fear of that person doing the same thing, even if they're not showing any indicators, we still hold on to that fear. And the second we see them do anything that is similar to the situations that we've already experienced or that person we've already experienced who betrayed our trust, it's almost like all of those fears and anxieties get re-triggered. And the self-fulfilling prophecy comes in because we start to see them as distrustful. We start to look at them and understand them as someone like, I shouldn't trust this person. And so then we kind of create this narrative that people are distrustful, and then we start to see it all around us. So I think the way that you need to start healing that is, because I love that you're still open, and it's like, it's not about like, why is everyone hurting me? It's like, no, I'm trying and I'm trying to have a best friend, but like I keep running into these people that I can't trust. And so the way I want you to start trying to heal that is heal when you feel those initial triggers or anxieties, stop, and instead of overthinking them or leaning into that feeling, I want you to look at the other person's perspective. So, really quick example, let's say I reach out to my friend and I say, hey, I need a ride to this appointment. My car is not working right now. Are you able to do that for me? And they're like, yeah, no problem. Well, the day and time shows up and they're not there. They never come. They don't call. They don't text. They don't nothing. So I immediately start to feel like, oh my gosh, this person is so distrustful. They're a user. They're a liar. They're using me. And like, I can't rely on them. And, all these emotions come in. But in that moment, what I could do is stop and reach out without anger, but reach out with a want to understand what happened, a want to get their perspective and have understanding, right? And then lo and behold, I never reminded them about my appointment, and we, never linked up and connected and talked about it again. So they totally forgot they were supposed to. And it wasn't an act of betrayal. It was just an act of forgetfulness. Well, now I know in the future, instead of jumping to the feeling that this person can't be trusted, now I'm going to remember, okay, so something I need to do with everyone, not just this person, is reach out and make sure I'm reminding people of the things that I need and the things that I want and, the things that I require, things like this. So you got to just approach it in a different way. But I think that you absolutely can, but it's almost like we have to recondition ourselves to not instinctively go straight to someone being distrustful when they do something. So I hope that helps. Yeah, good. I hope it helps. You'll have to let me know, like email me or something like that. Really quick, Jay Phillips, if you're still here, feel free to ask a question. And Britt, yep, go ahead and ask another question if you would like as well. Jay Phillips, it's donations aren't required for this. It's just a free reading, so they're welcome, but they're not required. So it's above. Okay, let me scroll up here. Can I ask a question regarding the person I'm dating? If so, my question is, how will this relationship evolve, and are there any red flags I should address? What's their first name? Scott. Perfect. And if you want to donate, if you scroll like all the way to the top, I added like a Cash App and Venmo thing. But let's look at Scott's energy. Let's see, Scott. Show me Scott. I'll say right away with the energy that I get from Scott, it's almost like he shows up. I think he's really fun, caring, but it's like I immediately have this weird like uneasiness about his energy. And I don't know if that's why you're wanting to ask, because maybe you're picking up on that same thing where it's very like not obvious what it is exactly, but it just feels like he shows up, he's got the smile, he's friendly, he's kind, but there's like this just weird uneasy feeling of like something's off for some reason is what I'm picking up on. Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's sweet and he shows up that way. If I want to understand like what this feeling is though. um I think that with Scott, I think what I'm picking up on, like that just weird feeling that's there, I feel like he might be how do I want to say that? Scott might be the kind of person that, so if I'm just blunt with it, it's like a hidden motive, but it's not hidden motive in the way that I typically see hidden motives where it's like I'm just going straight in because I have this motive. I know what I want to get out of this person. So let me jump in and just like do everything I can to get this thing out of this person. I feel like the hidden motive, the way that I'm understanding or like sensing that with Scott, it's not necessarily malicious, but it's almost like in his mind, he might already be like considering and thinking of how you fit into his life. And I don't want to romanticize that, but it's almost like him considering like, oh, she could take care of this piece of my life, and if we were together, if we were in a relationship, she would benefit me in all these ways. I think that's the feeling I'm picking up on with him. So it's not that he has like these hidden motives where that's the only thing that I want from you, but I do think that he like shows up in this beautiful, amazing way, while in the back of his mind, he's always considering, what can you do for me? And I think that's just an energy that he holds. And so I would say the caution with that is when you have someone that's like that, and I don't think that he like, again, maliciously is in that energy or even is like totally aware and conscious, realizing that he's in that energy. I would say the only thing to be aware of is make sure that they are always leading with genuine interest in you as a person. So it's not about like in the middle of conversation, if you're like, oh yeah, I know how to be an accountant. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I run this business and I that's the one thing I struggle with. And, accountants are so expensive. And so, who knows, maybe you could end up being my accountant. But like what he's saying is like, oh, if we're in a relationship, then you'll be my accountant for free. And I don't have to, like, I don't have to, I no longer have to pay and outsource this need because now you, if you're my girlfriend, can have that need met and I don't have to worry about it. It's like, I don't know. I think he wants to take it slow because I think he's really focused on making sure if I'm in a relationship with someone, there's benefit that that person has for me, my life. And not malicious, because I think that he has that perspective because he's had experiences in the past where he was that person that really benefited. Like, he leveled other people up and helped them gain higher status, but that person didn't really do the same for him. So now it's like, now we flip the roles and we flip it where it's like, okay, well, I don't want to jump into any relationship unless I know that that person's going to benefit my life. But it's almost like he's getting too focused on that portion, and it's a self-protection way. He has been. Yeah, I think that's his protective response is, okay, I'm the one who is always used. So I want to make sure that I'm not going to be used again. So, but he's getting too much into that energy where like now he might be coming off as the person that's actually using someone. But again, I don't think he's like realizing that. I don't think that he's totally aware that that's an energy that he's starting to get too much into, but it's not malicious. It feels very protective, very like, it's hurt people. Sometimes that's not a conscious thing that they do. Sometimes they just react that way to protect themselves from being the one getting hurt. So he doesn't want to be taken advantage of. He never sets dates, which upsets me. Like I do all the work. And that's another way it'll show up. That's exactly what I'm talking about, because I don't think that he's like not capable of being assertive or anything. I think the reason why he does that is it's like, in my past experiences where I'm the one who is always reaching out and doing everything, and I'm the one who always put everything together, just to end up being used, abused, and taken advantage of and overlooked and walked on. And it's like, I think he had the experience of when I showed up and I was loving and I did the actions to show my love, then when I did that, it's almost like that made me weak, that made me vulnerable, that made me hurt. So now I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make someone else do that, and I'll respond appropriately. But like, someone else is going to have to do that work. It's kind of like that kind of trade-off is the way it feels. I think he's a really good guy, and I think that you guys could definitely work it out. He's slowly driving me away. And that's why he's driving you away, is because of his own protection, his own guards that he put up, how he's responding to his past pain. I'm going to recommend maybe having a discussion with him if it's appropriate and it makes sense, to try to salvage it if you want to. And in that discussion, I would kind of like, question him about his past experiences. And I know it's probably something you guys have already talked about, but I would question it, and I would, have an open dialogue around it, and then kind of like connect the dots for him where it's like, oh yeah, I kind of like started to feel like you were actually doing that. Do you think that maybe you picked up on, things from your past and how it hurt you, and now you kind of act it out so that you don't get hurt again? It's like very gently make him aware so that he can make the connections for himself. Because if you outright tell him that's what he's doing, he's going to deny it and be like, no, you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking about. But if you have like this very genuine, open, loving space with him, and kind of just be like, oh yeah, like not to like, say that you did that, but do you think that maybe those are some of the things that you do in relationships now, or even when you're dating, because someone did it to you and you don't want to get hurt like that again? And so don't make yourself the victim in that conversation, but definitely bring it up in a way of like, make him start to wonder and question and realize very slowly that he's doing the same thing that people did to him in the past. And that might alleviate some of that. It might help. And that's how you salvage that relationship. But I think if he doesn't realize what he's doing, he's going to drive anyone away, including you. So I hope that helps. Deb York, I saw you pop in, where I'll do like a few more minutes on. I only wanted to stay 30 minutes, but if you have a question, Deb, donations are accepted, but they're not required. So if you want to type a question in, feel free to do so. And we'll do a quick like tarot or something like that for you. Of course, Jay. Have an amazing rest of your day. And I do hope that it works out. Like, he is a really good guy. He's just got to do some healing, Deb York, will I move soon? Not to be cliche, but that's totally up to you. Do you maybe want to rephrase the question? So if there's something happening that, is maybe preventing you from moving, or you have like another question around that, because at the end of the day, like, I'll never tell someone if they're going to do something or they're not going to do something, because that's free will. That's 100% up to you. If you want to move, you're going to move. And if you want to move and you don't move, again, you're not going to move. And that I can't predict or control, because that is the essence of free will. So if you want to just like maybe rephrase that a little bit, Deb, I'd be very happy to answer that for you. Okay. Again, free will. So anything that starts off with will I do this, that is free will. Now we can look at what's going on with you and Rob. And again, if it's something toxic and negative, that's your choice to cut ties. The universe will never cut those ties for you. They don't do the work for you. They show you maybe which thing is best or what direction is best, but they won't do it for you. That's the part of learning the lesson and overcoming the challenges. That's where we heal. That's where we grow. We have to make those tough choices and take action on them. So if you want to cut ties with Rob, then it's up to you to do that. I can't predict if you'll do that. You might do it and then go right back. Who knows? That's only you will know. If we look at the energy with Rob, I mean, roommate, not partner. Same thing though. If you want to cut that tie, that's up to you. Let's look at if it's beneficial for you to cut the tie or if it's beneficial for you to stay. So if you're okay with that, let's look at that energy, and maybe that can help you make that decision of what direction you want to go towards. Yes, Jay. PayPal works as well. For Cash App, it should just be C Cosmic 369. But you have my PayPal info, so that works just as well. For you, Deb, let's look at Rob's energy here. Show me Rob and Deb. So, Deb, when I'm looking at understanding the energy between you two, or even just how Rob shows up and how that's like affecting you or coming in, I'll definitely say there's like this he feels like he does feel toxic, but it's like toxic in a way of like really clingy, really like needy. Like I feel like, and I almost want to say self-absorbed is the way that I would describe that energy. I feel like there's so much like about, he thinks about me, and he may not overtly come out that way, but it's like when you listen to everything he says, it's like he takes everything personal because in his mind everything is about him. So if you like do something, he may not react in this like crazy aggressive way, but it's like, oh wow, like now I'm going to get passive aggressive because clearly she's being passive aggressive with me and she's doing this on purpose. And it feels very like we're a little too involved with ourselves to get good perspective on people and things and situations around us. So I hope that makes sense how I'm explaining that. And in that case, I would definitely feel like, yeah, it's probably in your best interest to cut that tie, but I would want you to consider and kind of like sit and contemplate, why would I attract a person like this into my life, and why would I keep them around? Like there's something within you that you need to learn or that you need to experience and understand with the interaction you're having with Rob, because there's a reason that interaction is happening. And the way that I'm seeing that dynamic play out is it's almost like you're having to show up as like this counseling psychologist mother that overly nurtures him. And even though that's not your energy and who you are, it's like he forces you to show up that way within your guys' dynamic, because he feels like I'm always a wounded child and I'm always hurt and I always have so many things to tell you and there's so much drama and so many issues and I'm drowning all the time. Like he feels so childish, but in like a needy way, and it like forces you to get into an energy that's really not an energy that you're about. I feel like he's unintentionally like an energy vampire, and I think he's like that way with everyone. I don't think it's just you. I think that's him, where it's just that, and I won't get into all the things that he's going to have to face and heal within himself because that's just too much. But I think for you, the difficulty with making that choice to move or cut those ties might lie in the fact that he's putting you in a position that makes you feel responsible for him. Like if you did leave, if you did cut ties, you're now abandoning him, you're now neglecting him. And I think that's where you need to start looking at, why do I feel that way? This is a grown man who is responsible and can take care of himself. Why am I taking on the burden of feeling like I have to show up for him and I have to tolerate him and I have to be there for him? And it's like, I think once you start to explore why you feel those feelings, that's when it's going to be a lot easier to make like a very defined choice and then take action with that choice to either cut those ties and to move away. But I think that's part of why he's coming into your life, to help you understand and see how you kind of show up for people. And I think the way you might show up for people is it's like you're taking responsibility for other people's stuff. You're taking on, you're almost making their problems feel like your own problems, but it's not in a way of like, oh, let me solve all of them for you, but it's more in a way of I have to stand by this person and I have to show up for them. I have to listen to them vent. I have to, allow them to take up the entire space energetically to help to let them feel better. And it's like you minimize your own needs and you minimize your own wants and desires and how you want to show up and how you do show up to give these people the space to show up how they're forcing themselves to show up. And I think once you start to realize like why that's happening, like why you have that kind of thing, that wound, that pattern, that idea, that's when you can start to heal that. And it's a lot easier to make those decisions to move away from people that don't serve you or are like not beneficial for your life. So I hope that helps, Deb. Yeah, I would definitely say it's more beneficial to leave, but I do think there's a reason you're there. And so I would take opportunity to heal it now. Otherwise, you're just going to attract the same person with a different face later. Richard. So we got about 10 more. I won't do more than an hour. So I got about 10 more minutes. So Richard, I'll look at that. Let me know a little bit more specifically when you say you want to know about your mission. Kind of elaborate on that a little bit, just so I'm not going too broad and then wasting a lot of time talking about things that you actually don't want to know about. Yeah, Deb, empaths have like the worst time with falling into those toxic relationships. And it's because the strength of an empath is not to feel people's emotions. It's to help them heal and kind of like create that realization for that person. But it's not, but empaths that don't learn to like really control their power and understand that it is a power, they end up succumbing to it, and it ends up becoming more of like a curse rather than a blessing, because we feel everything so much that we overly empathize in situations that hurt us. And the power with being an empath, when you learn to really hone in on it and understand it and work with it, you guide people to the ideas, the perspectives, the realizations, the things that they need to be guided to start their healing. So you're kind of like a person that can trigger healing in other people, but you have to be aware enough of how to do that, and that's what you're meant to do, rather than just I'm supposed to feel and heal everyone. Like, no, that's no one's job. That's miserable. You're just that bridge to help them understand where they need to be healed, because you can feel it and understand it and know. So I again, I hope that helps, Deb. I have discovered my power and path. So Richard, are you saying that you have already discovered your power and your path? So now you want to understand your mission on like how to use that better, on how to like use your power and your path for a mission? Just to make sure I'm like understanding. Show me Richard. Yes. Okay. Show me Richard. Let me just kind of pull your energy in here so I can understand a little bit more about energetically what I'm seeing as far as your power and path here. The first thing that I'm getting, Richard, is it's almost like I'm getting a visual of a person who's tapping into like who it feels like you're tapping into really high knowledge, almost like having these like epiphanies and receiving these like messages, like information downloads about the universe, about people, about codes. It feels like that. But as I'm like watching that happen, it's like, okay, so now that I have the information, what do I do with it? How do I move forward with it? And I think maybe that's why you're questioning what's the mission. So I have the tools, but what do I do with the tools? What am I supposed to build, right? I'm going to say there's always infinite possibility in where you can take that, what you can build, right? For you, I'll list off a few of the major ones that I'm seeing, but understand that just because I'm identifying them does not restrict you to just those specific missions or things that you can do here. I feel like one of the first ways that you can use that, it's almost like, I want to say the more obvious one, it's how you show up as a person. It's because it's almost like whatever information or like downloads or whatever like thing that you're getting here, it's like you can use that and integrate it into the way that you live, the way that you show up. Like if you're able to manipulate your own energy and you have this deep understanding of how we interact with energy and how we manifest, just you doing that and honing in on it and like mastering those things yourself, you could walk by someone and they would immediately feel like this healing and powerful and like information. And what I get with that a little bit is almost, if you really hone in on it in that way and in that direction, just being around someone, it's almost like you can open a portal, like you are a portal of information. So when someone is around you, when they're in your energy, they start to receive their own information that they're supposed to receive, that they're supposed to be connected with. Like you don't actually have to uh, orchestrate anything. It's like you could just stand next to someone and all of a sudden their consciousness, their awareness, it's raised, it's leveled up, it's more open to receiving information, divine wisdom, divine knowledge, but for what they need to receive it for. So that's one way that I think you could do it. I think that's one of the more obvious ways that you can do it, is like be that person, and then you naturally affect everyone else around you when you show up as that person. I think a secondary way that you can also work with that is, because I feel like whatever you're tapping into, whatever like information or understanding you have, it's not as simple as being able to sit down and explain it to someone. I feel like it might like it's one of those moments where it's like you had to be there to understand it. So I think it would be really difficult to try to lay that out and explain it to other people. I think it might go over their heads a little bit. So it's more about, now that you have this high level understanding, how do you take it and simplify it down? How do you create very practical, even like sayings, things that you can tell people, things you can share with people without feeling the need to dive into the details to deeply, give the information and have them understand it? Because I feel like there's a bridge that they wouldn't be able to cross if you tried to do that. So it's like, hey, this is, how do I take this huge concept and break it down into this one sentence, so that when someone's going through something difficult, I can say this one sentence and it's so defined and it's so meaningful, even though it's simple and practical, that it impacts them greatly. Like it actually creates something for them to think about. But I think that your ultimate power here, because even when I look at you doing it that way, it still comes back with an energy of like showing up as that portal, or that energy that influences other people to be able to see the things that they don't normally see. So whether you're doing that indirectly or directly, I think that is the mission for you, is to almost enlighten people without forcing enlightenment down their throat or trying to explain to them how to be enlightened. It's almost like you have to go about it in a different way. But I think that's literally what it is. You're meant to open people up to the things that they're blocked off of, the things that they don't see, the things they're not aware of. And it's like they come to that through their own conscious understanding, but you facilitate the opening. Like you might be opening people's crown chakras or something like that. Even if it's just for a moment, just opening someone up in that way that's never been opened like that, and them receiving even just a minuscule of information, and then it closing, that one minuscule could change that person's entire life. And I feel like that is your mission, is to help people open up to receive the divine knowledge, wisdom, information that they need to receive. So it's not necessarily you needing to share the information. It's like, no, now that you have the information, you can create yourself into this energetic portal for other people to also receive the information. So I hope that makes sense, how I'm trying to explain that. Oh, good. Okay, good. It's resonating. I'm trying my best to explain it. It's extremely cool power, super, super cool. I think that you could change many, many people's lives, but the other side of that is you may never see how you're changing people's lives. So you may be going through actually changing people's lives and never actually seeing the before and the after. So I wouldn't get any kind of discouragement. Don't doubt yourself. Don't feel like what you're doing isn't working, because I feel like even without you trying to do things, you're doing it anyways. When it's your mission and your purpose, it happens without you trying and forcing it. But just because you don't see the influence that the outcome of your influence on other people doesn't mean that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's very powerful what you're capable of. You just don't get to always see the outcome is the way that feels. So Richard, I hope that helps. You are going to be the last one. So we've been on for an hour, and thank you so much for asking the question and participating. And I hope to see you guys later. I'm going to do these lives about once every month, maybe 2 times a month. So thanks so much for participating and being here. And I'll talk to you guys all later. Bye.